Solstice 2021. And today I am not actually going to talk about the winter solstice in Old Norse myths or anything like that, but I will present some recitals from the poetic Edda about the sun goddess towards the end of this video. Otherwise, I have written about the winter solstice in articles and also in some video talks before. So this is actually a anniversary video because last year, winter solstice of 2021, I put out a video similar to this where I presented my new project, and this is a sort of update and also information for new readers, watchers, or whatever. Anyway, for those who may not know me but for some reason happened upon this intro video, let me briefly present myself. My name is Maria Kvilhaug. It's very hard to pronounce in English, but Kvilhaug means rest mound. Anyway, I am an author of both fiction and non-fiction. I'm also a lecturer with an academic background, but working on my own. And you could say that I am also open for a mystical and spiritual approach to the myths of the past, because I think that these myths are or represent deeply spiritual works of wisdom. So I was born in 1975, what makes me 46 years old at the moment. I am Norwegian. I do live in Norway, but I also spent a decade between 95 and 2005 roughly living in other countries. I spent 4 years in England and at least not less than 1 year in the US, and then in Mexico and in Portugal, and yeah, for various reasons I spent a lot of time abroad for a while, and for this and many other reasons I do tend to write and present my lectures in English, basically because my time abroad made me realize that this subject of Norse mythology is actually very interesting to many English speakers, and because people ask me questions about it all the time. So I also think I reach a more international and broad audience by using a language that is spoken in so many countries. So my readers, they know me mostly for my works on the Old Norse poetical metaphors and how to use these to understand what could be deeper meanings in mythology, esoteric meanings. And this book was titled The Seed of Yggdrasil. And to give you a spoiler, the title, The Seed, which is singular, not seeds as so many people say, the title is taken directly from a Edda poem called Rafnagalder Odin's stanza 6, where the goddess Eden is called in metaphor Yggdrasils frö. That means the seed of Yggdrasil. So that's the goddess Eden. So yeah, that was this is the first edition actually, and I've got more. I'm going to talk about where it's published now, because it's available again for a more reasonable price than the previous publisher did. Now I have a very good one, The Three Little Sisters. I'll come back to that. Many of my readers may also be aware of my earlier work, because The Seed of Yggdrasil came out in 2013, and when I made this university thesis, roughly equivalent to what is called master today. They had a bit different system then, but it was a master dissertation, and it was called The Maiden with the Mead. Well, this is actually the dissertation, Maiden with the Mead, and It came out at the university library in 2004 and is still available to see or to read in PDF through the University of Oslo library. If you just search my name, you'll find it also online. And it was also later published by Maiden Kvilhaug, another Kvilhaug that put an incredible price. Well, I was young and stupid. So now it's also going to be republished, and I edited a bit since it's been 17 years since I wrote it, so I thought I might edit a bit, and it's going to be published again soon. So I've also written one book with translations of 6 Edda poems, crammed with commentaries and explanations, the Poetic Edda, 6 cosmology poems. And then there is the Trickster and the THUNDERGOD, Loki and Thor in Old Norse myths. And this one presents all the myths in which Thor and Loki appear. And why the both of them? Well, this is because the two gods, Thor and Loki, usually, almost always, appear in the same myth, and most often actually appear to be working together. Interesting. Fortunately, some of my readers are also aware of my 4 novels, which sort of make up a series that was intended to carry on, but for economic and time reasons, I've actually had to postpone the ongoing story. But I think that the 4 novels as they are do work on their own as a whole, especially if you read all the 4, they do form a natural end circle. So yeah, there will be more at some point, I hope. But I'm gonna need time, and time for the moment is mostly spent on working time is mostly spent on things that I can actually pay my bills with, because I'm in that situation as everybody else, even if I write books and make lectures. So all these books are now republished with my wonderful publisher, the 3 Little Sisters. They are going to release a new edition of The Maiden with the Mead, a goddess of initiation rituals in Old Norse myths, in 2022. I have asked for some time to go through it since it was written back in 2004, and I may want to do a few editions now after 17 years. Adding to that, I run this a YouTube channel, and this is the intro video to my YouTube channel too. It's called The Lady of the Labyrinth, which was inspired back in the days by a Minoan title of a priestess from Crete, Labyrinthos Potnia. So before finishing the Seed of Yggdrasil, I published more than 30 YouTube lectures based on the research that was behind this book and I released this between mostly 2009 and 2013. Before 2009, I had been working on the research that lays behind this book since 2005-ish, 6. So anyway, after 2013, for various reasons, I went less active on YouTube. Personal reasons, and because I was concentrating on my research and writings and articles. There is a website where many of these articles are published, named after my novel series, The Blade Honer. All this work is, well, except for the books that you actually have to buy, all this work is free and there for the taking, videos, articles. But in order to continue writing books and making lectures, I had to start financing the time and work that it took, because we all have to make a living, pay our bills, all that. And doing all this work, and it's really a lot of work and hard work. I love doing it, but it takes a lot of effort and time, and doing this on my spare time simply became too taxing. So I opened a Patreon, and this was winter solstice last year. So I've been going on for 1 year, and I have not been regretting that. It has been a lot of work producing 1 or 2 big lectures every month, but it is the work that I love the most, and it has enabled me to get very close to finishing 2 new books, 2 new book manuscripts. I'm going to talk about that. So first of all, I want to extend a great and roaring thank you to the people who have helped me out by paying me a little or even a lot for the work I put into it. Thank you. It almost feels like you saved my life, really. And let me tell you about what you have done for me. The 2 new books that will be published as a result of people being willing to pay for my lectures, well, the 2 books that are going to be released soon are the following. 1, The Goddess Eden in Poetry and Myth. This book will be published shortly in 2022. The other one has the working title, which is the same title as the lecture series, Fjölkyngi, Stories of Seidr and Initiation. This manuscript, the manuscript for the first part of this lecture, and which will be a book on its own, will be ready in 2022. I don't know how fast the publisher will be able to get it out, but they will get it out. And I will get back to this, all about this shortly, just a moment. So, the projects. The Eden book is based very closely on 3 lectures, each one about 2 hours long, that I published on Patreon in January and February 2021. So it's about 6 hours of lecture, and that actually does make a whole book about the goddess Eden and what is actually said about her and her myth in the lore. So if you are a patron, you may already be familiar with the content. If you're not, well, the videos are published on my Patreon, so you only have to you get the drift. You just need to become a patron to see them. Each lecture goes through one of the 3 sources in which Eden is described. The first part, the Skaldskaparmål, and the second part, the skaldic poem Haustlang, and the third part, the much debated but Edda-style poem Rafnagaldir Odins. And each source provides some new insights into the Eden lore. So that is a lecture series on my Patreon, and there will be a book. Over to Fjölkyngi. Right. I'm going to tell you what it is about, what Fjölkyngi is, very soon. But first, the practical information. This book is based on the Patreon lectures in a series that I called Fjölkyngi, Stories of Seidr and Initiation. And this series began in March 2021, and it's still ongoing. I'm getting very close to finishing the first part, which is also the equivalent of finishing the first part of the actual manuscript for one book. I will be moving on to the part where we talk more in detail about the initiation rituals and initiation mysteries of the pagan lore. I just have to get through the episodes on Berserksgang spirits and summoning spirits, and the theme of Fylgur and Vetter and other Mottugar powers. First, these will begin to appear in January 2022, and then I'm gonna move on to the second part, which is also a separate project in a way, but linked, and that will be about the initiation stories. So I have published about 1 or 2 lengthy videos every month for the last 10 months. So we are getting closer to 20 videos by now. And all of these videos are out on my Patreon. And so far they either are or else they form smaller parts of greater episodes with the themes of basic information, the first part about what is fjordkyngi, the second part about oracular divination seider, the third part about priestesses and vøler, naming children, and the fourth part about practical seider for the purposes of healing, influencing the weather, finding lost or hidden things, and so on, finding people too, including many stories of summoning powers, shape-shifting, and out-of-body travel. And these things are also well presented in episode 5 about harmful seider and saga zombies. The 6th episode, which I have just recently finished, dealt with priestesses of war and human sacrifice, sidemen as mentors to kings, princes and warlords, and the story of the conversion process in Northern Europe, when many men who practiced seider were among the fiercest opponents to the new religion in the religious battles that followed. So over to the book project based on this lecture series. So first of all, the lecture manuscript, as it is like a first or maybe a second draft. And you, my dear patrons, are the reason that I've gotten this far, this fast. So thank you again. Thank you. If I am a bit slow on the next episode in January, please bear with me. I'm going to have to spend some time going through this manuscript to make it into a book manuscript and not a lecture manuscript. And the book will also be even more extensive than the lecture series, as I discovered many new things on the way while working on this. And also, when you actually talk about and present your work, then you start to see that, okay, this could be even better. This could be, well, I could add something here. Maybe this should be placed elsewhere. So, you discover things on the way. Maybe things could be put differently with different words, explained differently in a way. So yeah, I'm going to work on that. And I learned this from doing these lectures. I got this response that I needed to know where to edit a bit or add things. So I've also thought to change the title into Great Knowledge, Stories of Seider and Fjordkyngi. I'm not sure, actually. You may suggest better titles if you are familiar with the content by now. The reason for this title, Great Knowledge, is because it is a direct translation of the term Fjordkyngi, by which Norse-speaking pagans back in the Viking Age knew things that we today might have referred to as anything really, from shamanism to witchcraft to sorcery to oracular divination to poetry to spiritual mysteries and any form of sublime and esoteric wisdom and knowledge. Fjordkyngi, great knowledge. So I'm sure this word is not something that most people internationally are familiar with. You probably all heard about seider and galdrar, but you never heard about Fjordkyngi, did you? Unless you happened upon it. And the thing is that in translations of saga literature, we usually only see words like sorcery or seeress or witchcraft or basically sorcery, witchcraft, and this is the translation whenever the word Fjordkyngi appears in the original source. But the word actually translates directly as great knowledge. So this great knowledge, this Fjordkyngi, is an umbrella term which covers all sorts of pagan esoteric arts, skaldskap as in poetry, seider as in witchcraft or oracular divination, galdrar as in spell songs, skaldskap as in poetry, I already said that, seider, berserksgang as in battle ecstasy, and also out-of-body travel or summoning the spirits or changing shape, runes, healing, and so on. All of this is covered by the umbrella term Fjordkyngi, which is often also reduced to a simple word in our modern time magic in some way or other. Adding to this, I have also produced some lectures and stuff that is out on Patreon. I have published some videos about various seasonal celebrations. I think most of these are public, except for the Yule talk. I have posted 3 videos so far about the burial mounds of Vestfold, which I visited last summer. And I have been trying to record chapter by chapter from my first novel, The Hammer of Greatness, which has been a bit much amidst all the other things. And it was surprisingly hard to put voice to, actually, because the voice of the book itself, the voices of the book in my head when I wrote it and when I read it again, they sound to me like the voices of the people who tell the stories or who are talking. And when I read it out loud, it becomes different. So it also contains some painful moments, events that were harder to speak out loud than it was to write them, actually. But I am slowly, little by little, getting through the book. Each episode already recorded is also out on my Patreon and will continue to be put out on my Patreon. Now, last but not least, I am trying to figure out how to make sound audio files, like podcast files, so that you won't have to use either Vimeo or YouTube to listen to my talks, because many of them, well, it's nice to see the slides or me, but they do work as audio files, I think. So that's gonna happen next year. Then I'm gonna try to transfer all the sound files from my videos onto a pure audio sound file that will be published on my Patreon again. So yes, again, I did say thank you. Thank you for supporting my work, because it has made me very productive, basically. It's been fun for me, and there will be books also, and I hope you have enjoyed it too. So I wish you all a happy Jul, God Jul, a happy Solstice, Merry Christmas, whatever. And now I'm going to present you with some recitals from Edda poems about the sun goddess, since this solstice, after all. Bye.
Thor kvad, seg du mer datt alvis, oll og frauk fira, vårom dverger at viter. Hvis hun sol heiter, sjå alda syner, heimi verjom i. Alvis kvad, sol heiter med monnum, en sunna med godom, kalla dvergar dvalins leika, øyglo jotnar, alfar fagra vel, allskir åsa syner. Og der bur syner bjøden mykte, der Midgard mæran skåpe, solskjein sunnan og salar steina, då var grund groin granum lauke. Solvarp sunnan sinni måna, hendi inn I hægri himin jo dyr. Soldatne vissi var hon salig 80, måni datne vissi var han megens 80, stjörnur datne vissu var där stadig 80. Auster satt in aldna I jarnvidi, och fäddi där Fenris kinder, värder aftan öllum eina nöcker, tungels tjugari I trolls hami. Fyllisk fjörvi feigra manna, ryder Ragnas kjöt raudum drøyra, svört verda solskin sumur efter, Veder øl, vårlund, vitu der enn eller vatt. Sol ter sortna, siger fold i mar, verfa av himni, heidarstjörnu, geisar eine och aldernari, läker hår hite vid himlen sjalfan. Odin kval, fjold ek for, fjold ek freisade, fjold ek røynda regen. Vadan kommer sol och insläppta himmel, då dessa heter fenrir faret. Vaftrudner kvad, eina dotter bär Alfröder, ader hana fenrir faret. Su skal rida, då regel døya, moder brauter mær. Sol ek så, sanna dagstjørne, drupa dyn heimum i. En heljargrind, høyrda ek og annan veg, tjota tungliga. Sol ek så, setta drøyrstøv, mjøk var ek då, or heim i haller. Måttug hundleisks, og marga vegu, fra því fyrri var. Sol ek så, svo þotti mer, sem ek seia, gøfkan Gud. Henni ek laut, hinsta sinni, alda heimi i. Sol ek så, svo hon geisladi, at ek tottum kvætke vita. En gylfar straumar, grenje du, og annan veg, blandner mjøk vid blod. Sol ek så, og sjånum skjalfandi, rädslufuller og kniping, tvi at hjarta mitt var helder mjøk, runnit sunder i sega. Sol ek så, sjaldan hryggvarit, mjøk var ek då, or heim i haller. Tunga min var till träsnäten, och kolnat allt fyr utan. Sol ek så, sidan aldrig efter den vackra dag, tvi at fjalla vötten luktus fyr mer saman, en ek var kallad fra kåren. Vånar stjärna flau, då var ek fadder, bråt fra brjost i mer, hot at hon flo, vergesettes, så at hon makte vil hafa. Og norna stoli, satt ek 9 dagar, dadan var ek å hest hafi. Gygar sol, skein grimliga, or skydrupne skyen. Solarhjert, leit ek sunnan fara, han tøyde tveir saman. Föter hans stod foldu å, en toku horn til himmels. Arfi, fader ein vær rådigt hefi, og der solköttlu syner. Hjartar horn, dat or haugibar, hin vitri vigdvalin. Her runar ristigt hafa, njardar döter 9. Rådveig hin äldsta, och Kreppvör hin yngsta, och deras syster Sjau. Kväd i detta, ek vær kent hefi, skal du fyr kvikum kväda. Solarljod synast mune, minst at mörgulogin. Här vid skiljunk och hittas munen, och fägensteg i 4. Drotten min, gefi daudum ro, hinum liken gilda. Dåsannligt frädig var där i drömning ledig, en du satt ensam.